Welcome, all nerds. My name is Trey Staten, and I'm the nerdy guy. It's nice to make my formal introduction. I'll make a video on the actual introduction I'm planning on doing in a couple days, so look forward to that. If you're just checking out my channel for the first time, please hit that subscribe button, the like button. I'm kind of doing this and starting out. The lighting and everything can be fixed as time goes on. Hopefully you'll appreciate the content more than you'll actually, judge the lighting and everything from dissuading you from watching. If you have any suggestions for my channel, please put it in the comments below. I'd love to have anything you can give me. And yeah, this will be the first ranking video, a series that I'm going to put out on a bunch of different things from Game of Thrones, Star Wars, any TV shows, movies. If you have any suggestions on things you would like to see, please tell me in the comment section. I will look at that, especially since I'm such a small channel. I'm kind of just doing this to work on my speech ability and kind of give a different take on things that might not be so popular, popular opinions, and I'd love to get your discussions. This Game of Thrones video in particular will kind of be against the grain a little bit. Some things will be similar, but from all the others I've watched, they kind of all lump everything together, and I kind of have a different take. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. Hopefully you'll have different ideas or things, and I'd love to have that discussion with you. So no fancy visuals for right now. I'm just starting out. I have a full-time job, so please bear with me. But here we go. So least favorite to favorite, and here I begin. So my least favorite season, most people would believe that it would be 8, but it's actually 7 for me, and here's why. 7 was the first season where they really went off the rails against the books and everything, and I had a lot of hope coming off of season 6 that they would do a good job, but season 7 was where kind of the plot in itself just didn't make any sense. You had Jon going up with 8 people going to get the White Walkers to bring to Cersei, and Tyrion just didn't believe them. Tyrion, he said, "Oh yeah, you can trust Cersei," after 6 seasons of her, trying to kill him and everything. You honestly will believe Cersei? Really? Really? And that was kind of the whole plot. It just didn't make sense. Everything just felt like it didn't make sense, And even the coolest moments of 7 with the Daenerys versus Jaime battle, it just felt like main characters weren't going to die in that. There wasn't consequences. People had plot armor. Everything just felt rushed. And they did way less with 7 episodes than they did with the 6 episodes that season 8 had, And really, you'll learn this as the channel goes on. My favorite character is Littlefinger, so to see him kind of outsmarted by Sansa and seeing what Littlefinger was doing, the smartest character in my opinion, the person that set up the War of Five Kings, that does everything in the background where most viewers don't even realize half the stuff he does. It just really felt like an injustice to the character, so I felt really upset by that, but I was kind of prepared for it. It was really just the disappointing finale. We got to the disappointing finale, and what happened? Yeah, I agree to fight with you, even though she's not, and we kind of just knew that from the beginning, And if she would have just went up there with the dragons, like her Targaryen ancestors, flew to the Red Keep, burned Cersei alive, and the people, after they just had their altar exploded, be like, you know what? Yeah, we kind of don't like Cersei. Go ahead, Daenerys, take it up. You wouldn't have had any casualties. This whole thing with casualties and things like that, it really bugs me. And people have seen season 8. It really, led up to that moment of Daenerys, but it's still just, you could just go up to the Red Keep, burn about 10 people, and become queen. And honestly, the people of King's Landing would be for it after the terrorist attack that Cersei did on her own people. So nothing about season 7 made sense. There was no great action pieces. I mean, there was the, Daenerys battle and things like that, but it just felt forced, the dragon, everything like that. I won't go into too much more detail. If you're curious, please let me know, but I just really dislike 7. That's when I kind of got out of the interest of the whole show, was season 7. I just couldn't do it. Now, the next up, so we had season 7 from least. So now it is officially season 8. Yes, I have to go with the grain on this one. Most people will say season 8 is worse, but at this point, I was actually some things about season 8 trying to get on the positive side. I actually really did enjoy. I like the way that, I was so worried about the finale, and the finale kind of surprised me in some ways, where there were some positives like Brienne writing in Jaime's book. The Sansa and Arya, people complain about that. I liked Arya exploring. I liked that she chose life, I guess. That was kind of an interesting arc for her, and it gave her something to do after the battle was over that made sense. I want to spin off of Arya's character. I want somebody to kind of be the Christopher Columbus of the world and try and explore what's more than these two continents we know. And it's nice to see that from those characters. Sansa being Queen of the North. I kind of was more of a fan of her corner, a fan in her corner, I guess, during Season 8, not during Season 7. So they improved upon Sansa's character, which I appreciated. But there was still a lot of dumb things that just puts George's writing to shame. Grey Worm, why didn't he execute Jon? He was executing prisoners 2 seconds ago, and now he doesn't execute Jon after he killed his queen. Are you kidding me? The whole scenario with the dragon not killing him and killing the Iron Throne, and honestly, the biggest disappointment of it all, outside of Arya, a character that has no dealings with the Night King, didn't even know what the dead looked like an episode ago, pretty much. My main concern with this is that they left this in a system where 7 different kings can now fight for the throne after the new king is dead, and that's breaking the wheel. It left it in such a worse system than we started with in the show, and it just kind of felt like all of this was for nothing, and kind of gave a bleak message for humanity. So, I wasn't really a big fan of the whole ending scene. Not particularly that Bran was king, but the system that was set up. They're supposed to break the wheel. I'm not necessarily saying democracy, but I thought they would have a council of 7 instead of a king, so that way they could have majority rule. Each kingdom gets a vote, and that way you can't have one particular person making all the decisions if they go mad or things like that. I thought that would have been a better ending for the show, and that would have broken the wheel, per se. So 8 was kind of disappointing in that, but it had some positive moments. Everything with Brienne knighting Jaime and their relationship I thought was great, beside all the plot armor and things like that. It had some good moments, where 7 I just felt like, nothing's happening. People have plot armor and all this stuff, so I just kind of had to get out of that. So we said 7, 8, and now 5. 5 is an interesting case because I won't speak too much on 5 other than it was boring in the books, so it's boring in the show. They kept mostly with the books in Season 5, with slight variations, of course. Jorah getting grayscale, all that stuff. But for the most part, it kept true to the show. It had entertaining moments. But I kind of reference this a lot, where every even season, it almost feels, except for the beginning 2 or 3, it feels like Season 4, big conclusion. Season 5, setup. Season 6, big conclusion. Season 7, trying to get everything up to Season 8. It's a big setup, conclusion in one season to the next season. Every even season is this big spectacle, where every odd season after 3, it seems like, is a setup. So 5 was definitely a setup for 6, but with the sparrows and everything like that, and I put this higher because at least things make sense. People revolt against the Lannisters because they see them as weak now, because Tywin's gone. There's consequences. It might not be the most exciting thing to see the sparrows, but it kind of makes it worth it in Season 6 at the end, when you get the final conclusion. You had to kind of go through the nitty gritty, but you hated these people so much and you wanted to see them gone, that Season 5 kind of works in that way, where you just you're like, I want these people dead, and then you get that kind of nice conclusion in Season 6. So for me, Season 5 I thought was the worst season when I watched it, until I got to 7 and 8, but Season 5 for me really had a nice setup, honestly, a good talking between Tyrion and Jorah throughout the whole thing. I really enjoyed all that, and more than I thought I would. And, of course, you have Hardhome. Who can hate Hardhome? So that, for me, just put that up in the slot. So, again, I never thought I would say that Season 5 beats 2 other seasons of Game of Thrones, but I'm saying it now, unfortunately. Okay, next up we have 3. Now this is kind of controversial because everyone really likes 3, and hold your horses. To me, 3 felt a little dry and not too much felt like it happened. You had the Reigns of Castamere, you had, things that you really just had the Red Wedding, and I won't speak too much to keep the video short, but it just felt like you had the Red Wedding, you had some good Arya and the Hound stuff, but it didn't feel like a whole lot happened other than the Red Wedding. Like, it all felt like the Red Wedding was the big event of the season, and it kind of didn't have anything else for it to put it higher on this list, to be frank. I didn't like the dialogue as much as I liked the dialogue in 2. I thought the dialogue in 2 was really well done. Because I also feel the same about 2, that nothing really happened. You had the Blackwater and things like that. But I felt like the dialogue was better, and I guess that'll be my next point. So 7, 8, 5, 3, and now 2. 2, I went into this season not really loving 2 because nothing felt like it happened. But the more I rewatched it, I've rewatched this show 17 times with different friends who all had a different favorite character. And 2 was really the season rewatching that I had the most enjoyment, actually, because of the dialogue. I loved Jon Snow's arc, which I find him the most boring person. But in 2, he was very, very well thought out, and the scenes were really, really funny with Ygritte, and they had such great chemistry, obviously, because they're married, and it just worked so well with them. And I don't think he's had that chemistry with any other girl when Ygritte died. So for me, that was just something completely unique, and I just genuinely enjoyed the dialogue a whole lot more than a lot of their scenes. But what puts it over the top, honestly, is Tyrion becoming Hand of the King in season 2. That was season 4 and 2. I mean, that was the height of Tyrion to me, and he's my third favorite character. A lot of people's favorites. So to see him play the political game, which I think is Game of Thrones, always been Game of Thrones' strongest suit, is the political backstabbing and things like that. It was really nice to see him kind of out of his shell and really getting the power that he kind of craved growing up, and it kept really well with the books, and a lot of the scenes I love. My favorite, just referencing, was Tyrion telling each one of the council members, somebody who Marcella's the princess is going to be shipped off to, and knowing who spies on him. I thought that was a great scene for what he had to work with. So I love 2, even though nothing really happened. I thought the dialogue was some of the best of the entire show. And that brings me to 7, 8, 5, 3, 2. Now we have 1. 1 is very interesting for me. Rewatching it, I almost want to say that every scene was crafted so perfectly. You could tell that the work was put into it. When you're first starting this, every scene had symbolism. If you're talking about, and it's interesting, when Robert touches every single one of the Stark kids that dies at the very beginning of the show and doesn't touch the Stark kids that live. I love just the little hints that you get in Game of Thrones, from the stag and the wolf fighting, killing each other, from Robert and Ned dying. You had all these little hints in 1, and Littlefinger making Lysa send the note to Catelyn, and you hear the Littlefinger music in the background. If you pay attention to music, you know that it's Littlefinger that set this all up from the beginning. And so it's just these little hints in 1 that rewatching you just loves to see so much more. And of course it kind of grinds to this, it feels like it starts slow, but it starts to grind into this ultimate conclusion where, of course Ned dies, and it feels like it gets faster and faster as the season progresses. And of course that starts with a more intense viewing pleasure. So I really enjoyed 1. It's what got me into the series when I read the first book. I'll always have special love for 1. The reason it's not on top of this list is because, honestly, the last 2 seasons I'm about to mention are just so great to me that it has a hard time beating it. Even though I think it has probably the most of the iconic scenes probably happen in 1. and the most famous lines and everything like that. So next up on the list, we did the top three, third being, season 1. Second place goes, this will be interesting, season 4. Now, season 4 is interesting. I thought that this would be my favorite season, honestly, especially after the books. With Tyrion's trial, you got the fight at the wall finally coming to a head. And then I loved episode 10 with the Hound and Brienne and Arya and just a lot of things happened in the last episode, especially the Tyrion shooting Tywin scene. It was magic, to say the least. Joffrey dying. You just had so many events happen through this season that would have been it felt like a season of its own. It had been the season highlight of 3 or 2. To have Joffrey die or Tyrion shoot Tywin or something. It had so many more events that made plot-wise so much sense. So I really appreciated that things made sense, which you don't get in seasons 7 and 8, and some of 6, but we'll get into that. But things made sense and things were exciting, which is the best two combinations, and they kind of just made things exciting at the very end without things making sense. And I think that was kind of the backlash. But 4 was kind of the pinnacle to me of fully making sense and exciting events happening and things that have been building for so long finally come to a head in season 4 in such a fantastic way. I think this was the pinnacle of George's writing to me until he comes out with the new books. So it was great to see that on screen. I just have such fond memories of it. So the last season is definitely, if you've kept track, season 6 is my favorite season. And now you may ask why. Well, the simple answer is I felt like it was the only season that it was 10 episodes and it just, everyone felt like it had a purpose. It was exciting. You might not have loved every scene, but it had the most exciting back-to-back episodes. I felt like I was always intrigued from Hodor setting up from the very beginning was one of the most memorable events ever to the last episode to me was just really where Game of Thrones ended in my heart, because just the Cersei scene with the organ drop and coming down to the candles blowing up, of 2 seasons of build-up and you wanted them dead, to Arya getting revenge on Walder Frey and seeing her powers actually being to use. It just, the good guys won pretty much in the last episode. I mean, you can say Cersei, but she just killed worse people. And that was really where the good guys won, and it made complete sense to me of their actions, and it was exciting, and the music was so good, and Daenerys was coming down finally, and things moved forward, and people complain about people moved too fast from one location to another. I don't really mind all that. I just care about more the plot making sense and characters act how they would. And I think season 6 was kind of the last season for that, honestly. Jon would defend his home. He's honorable. There's certain things I would change, but I just thought season 6 was, for all of its faults, I think season 6 was the best season because it was the most exciting. And that's what gave me hope after the books, was that they were going to set it up to, they were going to be good writers and it was going to be competent. And it didn't happen. So I know this isn't the most popular list. I know people would put other seasons way above 6, but this is just my own take. I think 7's the worst, 6 is the best, which is such a flip-flop, one after the other. It's such a dive of emotions. But please comment below, and please let me know what you think of the video, things I can improve upon, things you like. I would love to get your intake because I'm really trying to improve upon my videos and kind of build a community where I can talk to people and work on my public speaking a little bit better. And I'm not trying to be the next PewDiePie or anything, but just to really work on how I speak to an audience and with the pressure on, and honestly just talk about nerdy things. And so I'm going to be doing rankings. I'm going to be doing of things that you might like. I'm going to be doing video games, solo plays. I think my first solo play is going to be Celeste, My duo play is the Halo series and things like that. So please check that out because we're going to be frustrated with Iron Skull. And I'm really going to be trying to set up kind of a weekly deadline where, the group Let's Plays are on Wednesdays. My ranking videos are on Mondays, things like that. So if you have any ideas, please let me know, and I'd love to get your intake. And as always, stay nerdy. Bye.